Good morning.
Good morning, Dennis.
Thanks for joining us here at Channel 15. Hopefully we'll be able to explain the warrant articles for the upcoming special town meeting. The date on that is
Tuesday, December 6th, and would encourage everybody to come to that special town meeting. It's going to be at 6:30 at the Southwick High School. You can also go online at www.southwickma.org to see the warrant articles. This is a special town meeting, some housekeeping issues, and one major vote on sewers. And we're encouraging people to turn out and review the documents and so forth.
fantastic. Again, thank you for coming down to Channel 15 to help the people understand what the warrant articles will be at the town meeting. We can take them one at a time.
Sure, let's go right into the first one. You want to do that?
First, you want to just tell the people who you are? And,
Sure, my name is Mr. Steinhardt. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer of the town, and I represent the Board of Selectmen in the day-to-day affairs of managing the community.
Thank you very much. With that, I guess we can just start on Article 1.
Okay, Dennis, the first article relates to a bond authorization for $950,000 related to the designing and construction for sewers in the Congamon Road area. This is something that we need to act on in a quick fashion because the Massachusetts Department of Transportation is going to be undertaking a full reconstruction of Congamon Road in coordination with efforts by our DPW department and their design engineers, Ty and Bond. So as part of the construction project, we're going to be putting in new road base, drainage, water lines, things of that nature. And we also want to put in a dry sewer line so that we're able to make sure that the line is totally in the street, underground, on Congamon Road for future expansion to the Gillette Corners area. Because when Mass Highway does a project, they do not allow people to cut into the pavement for a number of years. So that issue needs to be addressed. And then there's the issue of the soil conditions in parts of that street there, where septic systems can be very expensive for replacement. So it's been determined by the Sewer Implementation Committee and the DPW that this needs to be the next area for sewers, but we need to step into this process. And the first part is the dry line. And then future projects that will come before town meeting will include the College Highway section, a sewer pump station, where the commercial district is, and so forth.
Very good. But for this meeting, it's just Congamon Road?
It's just Congamon Road. It's just $950,000, which is still a borrowing authorization that has to be voted on, and it's to place the dry sewer line there.
Thank you for that explanation. That makes sense to me. Hopefully it makes sense to everybody out there.
Okay. The next one is a transfer from available funds for a series of salary and operational expenses, and this relates to articles to fund an agreement with the firefighter EMT bargaining unit for fiscal year 17. It backfills salary accounts for employees who have been out on medical leave. It offsets the transition costs for 2 department head retirements with new people coming aboard with some overlaps for training. And those 2 people are the supervisor of buildings and grounds and as well as the town clerk process the town treasurer, town accountant process. So we have 2 retirements that we've had to deal with. 2 long-term dedicated people have left, and now we're transitioning new people. And I think you're aware of that. The other aspect it relates to for the town clerk's office is expenses incurred related to the early voting program. For Southwick, we had over 2,000 people come in for those 2 weeks before the general election on November 8th.
A lot of people come
So that really helped us spread out the voters, and it was very successful in our town. But there is an expense related to that wasn't accommodated for or recognized in the last end of the last fiscal year when this year's budget was being.
Because we've never done it before.
No, and this was the
time.
first time we've done this.
I think it was very successful, a lot of people.
Right. So those are what those dollars represent, Dennis.
Fantastic. Let's see, what do we have for Article 3?
Okay. Article 3 is it was a request for $15,000 for a fire department apparatus study. Now, since we've posted this warrant, we have been awarded a $10,000 grant by our insurance company, Maya.
Nice.
So we will be doing a floor amendment to reduce this $15,000 down to $5,000. But in terms of what the article is for, it's going to help the town perform an assessment of our fire department fleet. The fire department currently operates a fleet of 10 vehicles ranging from the age of 4 to 27 years of age. Our goal is to have an independent review that takes into account equipment age and mechanical condition, repair history, operational usage, and how it relates to the call volume and risk needs. Also, our current deployment, staffing, and the possibility of consolidation in apparatus design. The chief's looking at maybe when we go to replace vehicles in the future, maybe we replace 2 of them with one multi-use function vehicle. So, and that can translate to savings.
That'll be part of this study?
Right. The study's going to identify this. These studies are undertaken by these consultants in other communities. So it's sort of like a look at how we're approaching our capital planning for the fire department. So it's going to help guide us on future purchases and our replacement schedule.
How often do they do these studies? Is this?
I would say for us, this is the first time we have
time.
undertaken it. So it really is something that we think is needed. You know, we also did one of these for pavement management, where we went out and we assessed the road condition of every one of our roads. You know, and then separately we were doing culverts.
So you know what you have existing?
It's a good baseline for planning so that you can figure out what needs to be replaced, when, and how you go about doing it.
That seems pretty straightforward.
So, okay. The next 2 articles relate to zoning. And one of them is an amendment to our zoning bylaw. And what the planning board is doing is proposing to revise the business restricted zone to include mixed uses of business and residential with conditions. Right now, it's usually just been, you know, only business, and it didn't really accommodate for the ability for people to live above the stores and shops. And so that's why these additional changes are going to be designed to maintain our old New England appearances of a downtown area.
Wonderful.
So, and of course, that's always an important consideration, because you can have a business owner be close to his shop or his store, or you may also have people who, you know, can live up above the stores, and it can give us an opportunity to provide housing that we otherwise would not be able to.
Sure, just
So from-
like it used to be back in the old
From a
days.
point of view of people having other options for affordable housing, especially with the cost of housing, this is a great initiative that's been undertaken by the planning board and the town planner.
That's great. I know a lot of other towns have done that successfully, and it really does add to the quality of the town.
Yep. The next one, Dennis, really relates to a really minor amendment in the signage for the agricultural and recreational uses. The planning board is proposing to amend the sign bylaw to include agricultural, recreation, and commercial recreation signs. I believe right now at this point that hadn't been addressed in an earlier sign zoning bylaw. So this is more of a fine tuning and a housekeeping issue that they want to do. And both of these planning board initiatives have gone through the required public hearings. So now planning board is bringing them forward to town meeting for approval.
So this is just an amendment. It wasn't something they specifically left out. It was just something that was
Yep.
overlooked, and now they want to include it.
Yep.
All right, moving along, Article 5.
Yeah, that was, the zoning one was five.
Okay.
So
Article
number six?
6.
Yeah, number 6 has to do with a lease authorization for the old library. This article will permit the town to offer a long-term lease to prospective bidders who will undertake renovations to restore and rehabilitate the old library on College Highway. And it would be done under the latest building and safety codes. The tenant would pay a discounted or minimal rent in return for paying for the improvements that are estimated to be over a couple of $100,000. Yeah, because whenever you're getting into, code issues, wiring, all that's plumbing,
safety.
public fire safety, things of that nature.
Access.
The masonry work, the roofing, the siding, these are things that we want to preserve. And generally, when you're going to do things to preserve things, there's also a little bit more of an expense to do that too.
Of course.
So this is important because this building is deteriorating, and action is needed not to lose this part of the town's history.
Absolutely.
The building has limited space and parking, which would limit its use for municipal purposes. However, the town has received several inquiries on its potential use for all business purposes, like professional office settings and things of that nature. So this vote allows that process to go forward.
This just allows it to go forward. There's no specific plans at this time, but
No, what would happen is obviously it would go out to bid as an RFP. An entity would bid on it. Now, the RFP has been developed by the Selectman's Office, the town attorney, and input from the Historical Commission. And so we would make sure that any lease that we sign with somebody would ensure that that rehabilitation and that restoration in preserving things is done, but bringing it up to the new code. And then in return for that, that person would get the use of the building for a number of years, as opposed to just going and renting somewhere else.
okay, so if this goes forward, then you'll be able to put out the RFP and we can
Yep.
try to preserve that beautiful old building that's been sitting there for a while, just deteriorating.
Right, it's decaying, and so this, we're at a crossroads. We really need to take this opportunity to try to save this structure and what it represents. There's a lot of nostalgia for this location, a lot of sentimentality, So this is gonna have to be a necessary thing to do this.
It looks like a good thing to do. If we don't do something, there's
Yep.
it's just not going to remain there. All right, I think Article 7, this time I'm correct, the last article?
Yes, Dennis, this is the last article, and it's really a piece of permissive legislation. This particular acceptance of this law, Mass General Law, Chapter 41, 110A, is, the town of Southwick would have to remain open on Saturdays and incur more overtime expenses than a weeknight for voter registration purposes, when we're going to hold public town meetings and elections and things like that. Mostly it's for town meetings. Then normally you'd have to keep your building open, and sometimes, depending upon the number of days, it would have to be open on a Saturday. Well, we want it to be treated like it's a Sunday, so that we don't have to open up on a Saturday, and we have other nights of the week that we could have people come in and do
Sure.
voter registration. And this, of course, would allow us to minimize or reduce the use of overtime when we generally don't get a lot of people that show up on a Saturday to do the registration. So the law allows us to take this vote and to deal with this issue, and this is something that the town clerk's office has asked that we bring before the town meeting for approval.
Sounds good, save the taxpayers some money.
Yep.
And I believe that's the last warrant article explanation we have.
That's correct, Dennis. That it's just a small.
Thank you so much for your great explanations. Hopefully everybody
Yep.
can take this to the meeting with them and shows up for town meetings are very important to show up for.
Yep.
Hope to see you all there.
Yep.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr.
See you
Steiner.
on December 6th. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you.